Hello. Today we're diving into one of Japan's most bizarre and shocking cases. A mystery so sprawling and unsettling that it's been dubbed Japan's #1 unsolved crime. When it first unfolded, people assumed it was just a typical kidnapping. But after the perpetrator was caught, a series of eerie events began to unravel. Over 10 individuals connected to the case, witnesses, police officers, reporters, and more, died mysteriously within a few years, as if an invisible hand was orchestrating it all from behind the scenes. For years, a dark cloud loomed over Japan. Even mentioning the case struck fear into people's hearts, and to this day, it remains an enigma, one of the most chilling chapters in Japanese history. Let's rewind to 1963 and uncover the details of what happened in Sayama, a town that became the epicenter of this haunting tale. Sayama lies southwest of Saitama Prefecture, nestled between the Musashino Plateau and the Iruma Plateau, with the Iruma River cutting through it. Its geography is a gift from nature. In the years before the incident, Sayama, a suburban hub on the outskirts of Tokyo, drew many residents to its quiet charm. But as its population dwindled, so did its agricultural and commercial vitality. Our story begins here on the morning of May 1st, 1963. The air was crisp after a rain, a gentle breeze rustling through the fields, soothing the soul. Yet Nakata Kenji felt anything but calm. He was worried about his younger sister, Nakata Yoshiko, the fourth child in their family and a 10th grader at Kawagawa High School. Normally, she'd be home by now, but today, she was nowhere to be found. It was a Sunday, her tutoring day. Maybe she'd gone out with friends after class, Kenji thought. Still, she'd usually let the family know. As dusk settled in, he couldn't just sit and wait any longer. He decided to head to her school. A short while later, he arrived, only to find her classroom empty and locked. Desperate, he searched the nearby side streets, but there was no trace of her. By 7:30 p.m., Kenji returned home, exhausted. As he reached for the door, something caught his eye, a white envelope wedged in the crack. Curious, he opened it and froze. Inside was a ransom note. It read, "Listen carefully. Your child is in my hands. If you want her to live, send a woman with 200,000 yen to the Sanza store at midnight on May 2nd. My driver will pick it up. Hand the money to him. If you're even a minute late, you'll never see her alive again. If you call the police, the child dies. If my driver doesn't return safely on time, her body will be dumped in the pond at Sayama. Go there and see for yourself. If he returns unharmed, I'll release her safely an hour later. Don't tell the police or your neighbors, or she's dead. If anyone spots you while you're getting the money, I'll kill her on the spot." Along with the note was Yoshiko's ID card. This was no hoax. Panicked, Kenji rushed to his parents with the news. The family was thrown into chaos, their hearts burning with fear. Though the note repeatedly warned against involving the police, after a tense discussion, they decided it was their only reliable option. By 7:50 p.m., the Nakata family reported the kidnapping to the local police. The police sprang into action. To avoid tipping off the kidnapper, they disguised themselves as farmers and hurried to the scene. After studying the ransom note, they noticed odd details. First, it was written with a blue ballpoint pen in shaky, uneven handwriting, with numerous corrections and scribbles. The envelope originally addressed "Dear Sir" in an oddly formal way before it was scratched out and replaced with the father's name. The salutation began with "Dear Sir" again, only to be crossed out. The transaction date was initially set for April 29th, then changed to May 2nd. The meeting spot was first written as front door before being altered to Sanza store, except the Sanza store had no second entrance. The note was riddled with spelling errors and awkward phrasing, some sentences barely coherent. The paper itself was worn and crumpled. From these clues, the police deduced the kidnapper likely had a low level of education. A special task force was formed, and a meticulous plan was set in motion to catch the culprit and rescue the hostage. Since the note mentioned a driver collecting the money, police deployed a large team along the roads near the Sanza store. The kidnapper demanded a woman deliver the ransom, so to avoid suspicion, The police enlisted Nakata's second daughter for the task. Confident in their strategy, they mobilized 40 officers to stake out the drop-off point, ready to spring the trap. At 11:55 p.m. on May 2nd, Nakata's second daughter stood in front of the Sanza store, clutching a bag with 200,000 yen. Most of it was counterfeit, with only the top layer real. 40 officers split into two groups, one hidden in the tea fields and bushes near the store, the other stationed along the nearby roads. At 12:10 a.m., a figure emerged from a narrow path ahead of the store. The kidnapper had arrived. Everyone tensed, watching closely. He was cautious, lingering at a distance while speaking to Nakata's daughter. For about 12 minutes, everything seemed to be going smoothly until disaster struck. At 12:25 a.m., the kidnapper suddenly shouted, "You called the police, didn't you? I see two of your people over there." With that, he bolted down a small path alongside the fields. Within seconds, he vanished into the darkness. The ambush had failed. The officers near the store were too far to catch him, while the road team waited in vain for a car that never came. The kidnapper hadn't driven. He'd come on foot, outsmarting them all. The maze-like paths and pitch-black night made pursuit impossible. He slipped away right under the noses of 40 police officers. Furious, the police launched a search at dawn. They found a trail of footprints stretching south across a field near Kawagoe, but the tracks ended at the river, where police dogs lost the scent. The prints were from tabi shoes, traditional Japanese split-toe footwear, suggesting an adult male. A massive search ensued, leading them to a pig farm near Kawagoe Bridge, home to many Burakumin, descendants of Japan's historical outcast class. These people, often relegated to unclean jobs like butchering or funeral services, lived in isolated communities and faced deep social stigma. Their education levels were low, and crime rates among them were high. The farm's owner's brother and dozens of workers had criminal records: extortion, theft, robbery. Suspiciously, Kawagoe Bridge was on Yoshiko's route home from school. Police swarmed the pig farm, questioning the manager about anything unusual. But after a thorough search, they found no leads. The manager claimed ignorance, and Yoshiko wasn't there. The case hit a dead end. To gather more clues, Sayama Prefecture Police held a press conference the next morning. The chief declared, "I'm certain the culprit is a local. We'll solve this soon." Afterward, 90 investigators scoured the area. They found Yoshiko's bicycle in a forest, and a farmer reported hearing dogs barking furiously around 3 a.m. on May 2nd in Nomi Field. Sensing a breakthrough, police rushed there and made a grim discovery. At 10:30 a.m. on May 4th, they found a girl's body in a ditch beside Nomi Field, a coarse rope nearby. Police suspected it was used to drag the body. After identification, it was confirmed it was Yoshiko. The Nakatsu family collapsed in grief, blaming the police for their failure. 40 officers, yet the kidnapper escaped and killed their daughter. That night, an autopsy revealed she died around 4:20 p.m. on May 2nd, before the ransom drop, strangled by mechanical asphyxiation. She had external injuries, semen in her body, and skin fragments under her nails, likely from the killer. DNA tech wasn't advanced then, but blood typing pegged the suspect as type B. News of Yoshiko's death sparked outrage. 3 years earlier, a similar kidnapping took police 2 years to solve, fueling public distrust. Now, with a meticulous setup, they'd let the killer slip away again. What's the point of the police? People demanded. Under pressure, the chief formed a 165-member task force, vowing swift justice. Their focus turned to the suspicious pig farm. That afternoon, they grilled the manager again about recent oddities. Nervous, he recalled a missing shovel. The team demanded a theft report and took blood samples from 27 farm workers and their families. By 5 p.m. on May 11th, they found a shovel in Nomi Field near the body. Soil on it matched the victim's, suggesting it was the murder weapon. Grease on the handle tied it to the pig farm. Blood tests revealed only one worker, Ishikawa Kazuo, 24, had type B blood. Suspiciously, he'd claimed to be type A before testing, raising red flags. Handwriting analysis showed his scrawl matched the ransom notes. As a bureaucracy with only an elementary education, expelled for bad behavior, Yoshiko fit the profile. Teachers called him uncooperative and justice blind. After dropping out, he worked odd jobs: factory worker, where he lost fingers, babysitter, shoemaker's apprentice, laborer, before joining a Sayama crime gang and sinking into gambling debt. In 1961, he was fired for theft. By late 1962, he worked at the pig farm, resuming his criminal ways, stealing cedar logs with a manager, pilfering straw, chickens, uniforms. He brawled constantly, a habitual thief with a stained past. Police learned that on May 4th, when Yoshiko's body was found, Yoshiko was at the scene, joking with friends, "With this crowd, I could sell candy and make a fortune." Most would recoil at such a sight, but he was cavalier. Combined with the blood type and handwriting, the task force decided to arrest him. Before they could, he was nabbed for theft and fighting. In his home, they found a 35 centimeters rubber cord resembling a bike part, possibly Yoshiko's. During intense interrogations, Ishikawa stonewalled, insisting he was innocent. He claimed that on May 1st, he and his brother fixed a neighbor's machine from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., then stayed home, sleeping by 9 p.m. On May 2nd, he slept all night. His family backed him, but his house's layout allowed him to sneak out undetected, weakening their alibi. He brushed off the handwriting match, saying, "We're all Japanese. Our writing looks alike." After 20 days, he wouldn't budge, but evidence piled up. A lie detector flagged odd reactions to questions about the crime. Hair like his was on Yoshiko's body. His mother said he slept late on May 2nd, possibly from exhaustion. He raced bikes at Sayama's track, near the pond mentioned in the note. Nakata's daughter recognized his voice from the drop, and crucially, rubber boots at his home matched the crime scene footprints. He claimed they were his brother's, but they fit him perfectly. On June 17th, after being bailed out, Ishikawa was rearrested for kidnapping and murder. Kenji remarked, "The killer must be a laborer." The field where Yoshiko was buried had hardened soil. Only someone skilled could dig it. Ishikawa couldn't have acted alone. Initially, Ishikawa denied everything, but 3 days later, he flipped, admitting involvement. He claimed 2 pig farm co-workers raped and killed Yoshiko. He only wrote the note and stole the shovel. He drew a crime route map, leading police to Yoshiko's school bag on May 21st. Then, on May 23rd, he changed his story again, saying he acted alone. He detailed it. At 3:50 p.m. on May 1st, I saw Yoshiko biking home. I tried talking, but she brushed me off. Humiliated, I attacked her at 4:30 p.m., raped and strangled her, hid her body in a potato ditch, delivered the note at 7 p.m., stole a shovel, and buried her by 8 p.m., tossing the shovel in Nomi Field. More evidence surfaced. Yoshiko's pen was found at his house, her watch in the field. Witnesses saw him with a tricycle delivering the note and asking about the Nakata home. On July 9th, 1963, Ishikawa was charged with rape, murder, body disposal, and extortion. At trial, he confessed, saying, "If I hurt someone without remorse, even God wouldn't stay silent. I'll accept any punishment." On March 11th, 1964, he was sentenced to death. But the story didn't end there. It was just beginning. The next day, Ishikawa recanted, claiming police coerced his confession. On September 10th, 1964, his appeal hearing at Tokyo High Court revealed his allegations. Officer Wakichi allegedly promised, "Admit you killed her, and in 10 years, you'll be free. You've done worse. You won't get out for 10 years anyway." Ishikawa said this lured him into confessing, only to face death instead. Wakichi denied it, and the court favored the police. Ishikawa offered a new alibi. On May 1st, he left home at 7 a.m., played in Sayama, visited a pachinko parlor sheltered from rain under a neighbor's eaves from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m., then stayed home. Pachinko staff and a fruit vendor couldn't confirm this. He'd also bragged to his cellmate about getting out in 10 to 15 years with a payoff, hinting at accomplice. The appeal was denied, upholding his death sentence. Just when it seemed over, the case took a sinister turn. In the following years, people tied to it began dying mysteriously. On June 6, 1963, ex-Nakata landlord Oku Tomiyoshi, 31, a former suspect, drank pesticide and jumped into a well. On May 11th, witness Tanaka Noboru stabbed himself in the chest. Late May, a man from Ishikawa's address, suspected as an accomplice, vanished. On March 18, 1964, an education advocate who stood with Nakata's sister during the drop died of a brain hemorrhage. After Ishikawa's sentencing, on July 14, 1964, Nakata Mia overdosed on pills. On October 24, 1966, the pig farm manager's brother was hit by a train, its logs destroyed. On July 14, 1967, a watch-presenting witness died suddenly. On January 28, 1968, the chief prosecutor suffered a brain hemorrhage at home. On December 25, 1970, the case's forensic doctor vanished, later found dead on a Thai dock ship. On October 4, 1977, Nakata Josho hanged himself amid business woes. On December 19, 1977, journalist Sasaki Ryuzo, obsessed with the case, was attacked in an alley and died 2 days later. A pig farm co-worker who testified in 1966 also disappeared. Over 10 deaths, suicides, or accidents linked to the case seemed too coincidental. Was this silencing? The Nakatas were wealthy landowners. Could someone have targeted their fortune, staging the kidnapping? Kenji and Mie's later suicides bolstered this theory, lending credence to Ishikawa's coercion claim. Perhaps he was a pawn in a power struggle. The Baraka Liberation League, BLL, rallied, declaring Ishikawa innocent, a victim of discrimination against Burakumin. On March 13, 1970, they labeled the Sayama trial biased, demanding a retrial. Initially ignored, the issue snowballed. Japan's millions of Burakumin, long oppressed, saw Ishikawa as a symbol. Protests erupted, hailing him a hero against injustice. Foreign media took notice. Under pressure, on October 31, 1974, Tokyo High Court reduced his sentence to life, citing overly harsh initial evidence. Unbowed, Ishikawa maintained his innocence, filing retrial pleas in 1977 and 1986, both rejected. In prison, he studied, wrote thank you letters to supporters, and composed award-winning poetry for the BLL. Released on parole on December 21, 1994, after 31 years, he kept fighting. On May 23, 2006, he filed a third retrial request, turning a simple kidnapping into a national class struggle. Success would mean victory for him, the BLL, and all Burakumin. In September 2009, courts reopened evidence. Experts found flaws. Ishikawa's illiteracy made the ransom note unlikely. No fingerprints tied him to it. Crime scene footprints didn't match his boots. Yoshiko's pen, missed in 2 searches, found in a third, wasn't hers. No chromium in its ink. Autopsy showed fabric strangulation, not hands. Blood typing was sloppy. The shovel's origin was shaky. Witness ID was biased. The watch belonged to her sister. Most evidence crumbled, hinting at tampering by a powerful force, far beyond Ishikawa's reach. The string of deaths reinforced this. Today, Ishikawa, 84, still seeks exoneration. The real killer remains unknown. Urban legends tie the case to My Neighbor Totoro, set near Sayama, but these links feel forced, mere coincidence. The truth eludes us still. From a criminal psychology perspective, this case is a maze of manipulation and societal pressure. Ishikawa's shifting confessions suggest coercion or a fractured psyche under duress. The deaths hint at a cover-up, possibly by someone with influence shielding the true mastermind. His low education and impulsivity make him an unlikely solo orchestrator, more a scapegoat for a deeper conspiracy. Until new evidence emerges, the Sayama case remains a haunting puzzle, its shadows stretching far beyond one man's guilt or innocence. Goodbye for now. until the next mystery unfolds.